Today we're going to be talking about that movie. Black Widow came out this past weekend and literally hundreds of you left me comments here on my YouTube channel letting me know that you saw me in the movie. So first of all, thank you so much for that love and support. I really appreciate it. This was an amazing experience for me and I can't wait to share it all with you. I'm going to tell you all about my audition, to the booking, to the amazing 3-week trip to London that followed. It was a huge roller coaster ride and I'm going to tell you all about it right now. What's up, my fellow actors? Welcome to the Acting Career Center, here to help you learn the skills you need to break into the film and television industry. My name is Kurt Yu. Thank you so much for spending some time here with me today. If this is your first time here, make sure to subscribe to this channel to get more videos on acting, auditioning, and career advice every single week. Today, we're going to be talking about my experience working on Black Widow, the new MCU movie that just came out this past weekend. But first, if this is your first time watching one of my videos and you haven't downloaded my 10-step audition preparation guide yet, then you can get it by going to that link right up there. I call it my audition cheat sheet, and it's the actual audition preparation process that I personally use that has helped me book over 50 movies and television shows, including Black Widow. So if you want to download that for free, you can get it by going to that link right up there. So let's talk about how this whole thing started. And in order to do that, we're gonna go all the way back to when I auditioned for this movie. And this was a whole 2 years ago, back in July of 2019. That's when I got the audition for Black Widow. So I got an email from my agent that said Untitled Marvel feature film. And this is very typical of Marvel to be secretive about their projects. They don't want to give anything away. So I had no idea what movie I was auditioning for. Although based on the Phase 4 timeline and my understanding of what was about to start shooting, I had a hunch that it was either Black Widow or the Eternals. It was probably one of those two. But the point is, I didn't know for sure because in the audition email, they didn't say. So the audition email also said that anybody auditioning needs to have a valid passport because part of the scenes were going to be shot in the UK and part of them were going to be shot in Atlanta. So this is a lesson to those of you out there who are aspiring actors. Make sure you have a valid passport because you don't want to get passed over for opportunities like this that may need you to travel overseas. Now the sides I got were also very vague because again, Marvel does not want to disclose anything that happens in the movie. They wanted to keep everything a secret, right? So the scene was kind of vague. There were no character names, but this was the scene that we were given, and this is the scene that we had to audition with. So the character name was just Agent, and me using my best educated guess, I assumed it was a S.H.I.E.L.D. agent, so I decided to wear a suit and tie for my audition because, hey look, having seen all the MCU movies, I've seen S.H.I.E.L.D. agents in almost every movie, so my assumption was that it was a S.H.I.E.L.D. agent. Now, I ended up being wrong, but the suit and tie was still fine. The audition was a self-tape, meaning that I could record it at home, and it was a relatively short audition, just a few lines. So I had my good friend Kellen Boyle as my reader, and we worked on it a little bit. We tried a few different choices and then we recorded them and then that was it. And then we sent in the audition. Now it was a full 10 days later before I heard anything back. I kind of assumed because it had been 10 days, I had already assumed that it was over, that I had probably not gotten the role. But 10 days later, I was in my agent's office for a completely different reason. And as I was leaving, my agent said, "Oh, hey, I just got an email. It looks like you're pinned for that Marvel project." I was shocked and surprised and any other word that I can think of. So if you don't know what pinned means that you haven't been booked on it yet, but they are very interested in you. You're one of their top choices, and now they just want to check your availability to make sure everything is still okay in case they want to book you. So of course, I said, yeah, I'm available the entire time. Let's see what happens. And this is when I started getting excited because I knew I was really close. I was in their top choices. There was a very real possibility that I could be booked on this project. And I didn't have to wait very long. It was actually just 2 days after that I got an email from my agent that said, "You are offered the role of Ross Lieutenant in this untitled Marvel feature film. Still didn't know what movie it was. Now at this point, I was obviously super excited that I had booked this movie, but I was also a little anxious. And the reason I was anxious was because in the same email that said that I got the part, they also said, you may need to travel to the UK as early as tomorrow morning, so pack your bags. So I basically had to get everything in order to pack my bags and get ready to go to the UK. And one of the things I needed to do was go to my photography studio. At the time, I was running a photography business and I wanted to go to my studio to make sure everything was okay before I left. Now, I share that studio space with one of my acting teachers, Robert Prolgo. Robert teaches his acting classes in that same space, and I do my photography in that space. We share the space. Now, when I went to the studio to kind of put my lights away and stuff like that, he was actually there working with one of his students. And when I walked in, I said hello to Rob, and Rob said to me, hey Kurt, you're gonna have the studio to yourself for a little while because I'm about to head to London soon. And I said, well, wait a minute, I'm about to head to London soon. And then we kind of just looked at each other for a second, and then he leaned in, he's like, wait, for the Marvel thing? And I was like, yeah, for the Marvel thing. And we whispered to each other, even though we were in our own studio, because we had to be so secretive about everything. But yeah, so we found out that we had both booked the project. I should point out that when I first got the audition email, it did say that they were looking to cast 6 different agents for this project. So when Rob first said that he was going to be going to London, in my mind, I'm thinking, wait a minute, are you going to be another one of the agents? And it turns out that he was. So what an amazing experience to find out that you and your acting teacher are both cast for the same project as agents. Amazing. So now that I knew someone else who had booked the project, we could kind of share in this excitement together, right? But again, we still didn't know what project it was. We also weren't sure when we were going to be flying out of the country, so we were both going to go home and pack our bags and just be ready and sit next to the computer and wait for an email, or sit next to the phone and wait for a phone call, right? And then it turned out that they didn't need us to fly out right away. They had some paperwork that they needed us to fill out, so we had to do all that. And then they ended up flying us the following Tuesday, which was about 4 days later. And in filling out the paperwork, that's when we found out what project it was, because hidden in there it said something about Romanoff. The name Romanoff was hidden in there somewhere. And I saw that and I was like, it's Black Widow. So, and I think all of us figured that out. I'll talk about the other agents here in a second, but everybody kind of figured it out when they saw that. But one thing that we didn't know yet was how long we would be needed in the UK. I kind of just assumed that we would just be there for 2 or 3 days and then come back and then film a scene in Atlanta and then we'd be done. But on the day that they were going to fly us out, which was the following Tuesday, that morning, about 11 a.m., we got an email. And the email said, hey, your flight is tonight at 8 p.m. Here's your flight information. Also, here's your return flight information. And the return flight information said almost 3 weeks later. So I called Rob and I was like, 3 weeks, this is insane. So this is how crazy the whole thing was. Like I said in the beginning, this was a roller coaster ride. We didn't know a lot of stuff and things were kind of just dropped in our laps. So all of a sudden, the bag that I packed for a few days was no longer enough. I had to repack the bag for 3 weeks and then head to the airport. So that night we boarded a first-class Virgin Atlantic flight that took us across the pond to the UK. I'm pretty sure Virgin Atlantic doesn't call it first class. I think they call it upper class. Either way, it was a beautiful plane, a beautiful cabin. Now, the most important thing about this flight, though, is meeting the other agents, because this is the first time that I got to meet the other people that were going to be the 6 agents in our group. Now, obviously, I already knew Rob Prolgo, but now I finally got to meet Jose Miguel Vasquez, Jacinte Blankenship, Josh Henry, and Jeffrey Williams. The 6 of us meeting for the first time on that plane was the beginning of a very special bond that was formed between us. I could not have asked for a better group of people to spend the next 3 weeks with. They made this trip 10 times more enjoyable than it would have been had I done it alone. In fact, I think about had I booked this project alone, even though it would have been cool to go to London by myself and to experience the city and to experience going onto a Marvel set, but it was so much better having these other actors who I have the pleasure of now calling my friends there with me. When our plane landed in London Heathrow, of course, Marvel had a van waiting for us, ready to take us to our hotel. Shout out to Rob and Ashley, our drivers. They were actually our drivers for a lot of the time that we were in London. They were amazing people, gave us a lot of cool tips about what places to go to and check out on our off days. So Rob and Ashley, thank you. Now let's talk a little bit about the hotel that they took us to. We were staying at the McDonald Windsor Hotel. The hotel itself was nice. It was a nice hotel, but there was nothing like super special about it. What was special was when you walk out the front door of the hotel, because across the street from the hotel was a freaking castle. A castle. This was the view from across the street from our hotel. This is Windsor Castle. This is where the royal family hangs out. And here's a picture from inside the castle grounds. The royal wedding was here in 2018. The Queen was our neighbor. I have no idea if the Queen was actually there during the time of our stay, but she could have been. Now, after dropping all of our stuff off at the hotel, we had to get right back into the vans and go immediately to Pinewood Studios in London to get costume fittings because we were going to be working a couple days from then. So they needed to make sure that we had all the wardrobe that each of us was going to be wearing in our scenes. So shout out to Jenny, Vivian, and Richard who were in the costume department. They made us look super cool on camera. They had us try on all kinds of different clothes with all kinds of different tactical gear because we were, as you could see in the movie, kind of like SWAT team type of people. So at this point, I know you're hoping for some behind the scenes pictures and video of what it was like in the studio at Pinewood, on set, all that type of stuff. Unfortunately, have none of that. I could not take any of that. If I did even try to sneak a photo while I was in the studio or on set, the Marvel police would have shipped me off to the middle of nowhere for the rest of my life. You would not have heard from me ever again. So after our costumes fitting day, the next day we had weapons training. Now, none of the 6 agents actually had to fire our guns or shoot or anything like that in this movie, but they still spent the time to make sure that we knew how to properly hold a gun, how to properly point a gun, all this type of stuff, just in case. I think we had a total of either 2 or 3 days of weapons training before we were even going to go on set. Even though our first day, none of us even drew our guns. We were just standing there. So this is the type of effort that Marvel puts into their projects. Even the people that are just standing there with guns in their holsters, they make sure they go through all that training just in case. Shout out to Merlin, Troy, and Ian, our tactical trainers. They were super cool guys to work with. So after 2 days of weapons training, we now had a day off. So I think we got there on Tuesday, we had our costume fitting, and then Wednesday weapons training, Thursday weapons training, Friday we had a day off, and Saturday was actually our first day on set. Now, this was our first day of filming. The production had already been filming for 50 days. This was their 50th day of filming. But for the agents, the 6 agents, this was our first time on set. Oh, one thing I forgot to mention, I had a scene with a few lines on this first day. Now, for most movies, not Marvel movies, for most movies, when you book a role, they send you the script right away. If anything, they at least send you your sides. They send you what your lines are immediately. Marvel, not so much, at least not for me, not in my experience. In my experience, they were so secretive that they did not send me the sides until the day before I had to go on set and do that particular scene. The night before, and they didn't email it to me. In most projects, the production would just email you the script, and you have the script, and you can prepare it, and then on your day of filming, you go on set, and you've already done all your work. Marvel was not about to send me the script. First of all, yeah, they're not about to show me the full script of the movie. Not for my character. Scarlett Johansson and Florence Pugh, they're going to see the full script. But Ross Lieutenant, there's no way they were about to show me the full script of the movie. So, and they were also not going to email me anything. I had to get a new login to a secure server to go onto Marvel's whatever it was that I was logging into. I felt like I was logging into like the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. secure server. I thought Nick Fury was going to pop up and send me an email. Anyway, so I had to go onto this secure server and then get this script, and this is where I could view it. But of course, I was not going to download it. I was not allowed to email it to myself. I was not allowed to do anything with it except for view it on that secure server. If I tried to do any of those things, I'm sure the Marvel police, again, would have thrown me out to the middle of nowhere. You never would have heard from me again. Okay, so that was the night before. That was when I first got to see what my lines were. Now, fast forward again back to Saturday, we are on set for the first time. So the first scene for the day was at Pinewood Studios. It was a set that they built inside the studio. It was an amazing set. And this is where we met for the first time our wonderful director, Kate Shortland, our great first AD, Jamie Christopher, and where we met William Hurt for the first time and O.T. Fagbenley for the first time. As you know, William Hurt plays Thaddeus Ross and O.T. Fagbenley plays Mason. Now, I cannot say enough good things about Kate Shortland. She was an incredible presence on set. She made the entire thing feel so welcoming. You know, these 6 people were coming from another country, and it was our first time on a set that had already been working for 50 days. Sometimes when you go onto a set for the first time where people had already been working together for 50 days, you can kind of feel like the new kid in school. But Kate definitely made us feel welcomed there. It was amazing, and Jamie Christopher, the first AD, he was such a pro. The whole experience working with them every time that we were on set was amazing. Now, like I said earlier, the first scene took place in this hotel room that they built on set, and the craftsmanship of the set designers, the builders, the art department, the set deck, like everybody, they really killed it. I mean, even to the little chips of paint that were on the wall that you couldn't even see in a shot. But they did such an incredible job, like the attention to detail. When you walk into it, I couldn't believe that it was something that they built just for the movie. It looked like it was an old hotel in some random country, wherever that was supposed to be taking place. Maybe Budapest, I'm not 100% sure. The reason why this scene that I'm describing does not sound familiar to you is because this scene was not in the movie. This scene actually got cut from the movie. The second scene we were shooting that day, where we're leaving Pinewood Studios and we were going to go on location. We were going to go to this kind of fast food restaurant type of place. Now, again, this may not sound familiar to you because it was another scene that was cut from the movie. However, this scene did appear in the very first trailer. So here's a screenshot of our scene that was in the very first trailer for Black Widow. You see, obviously, William Hurt standing there, and you see me right behind him, and then behind me is Robert Pralgo, and off of William's left shoulder is Jeffrey Williams. So that was our first day working on Black Widow, those 2 scenes, the one in the studio and the one on location. Now, really quick, I do also want to shout out Sally, our second AD, and Josie, our third AD. They were so helpful, not just on set, but also with things that we needed off of set. Because check this out, after our first day, that Saturday, we actually had 10 days off. We had 10 days before they needed us on set again, so we were just hanging out in the UK for 10 days. Now, Sally, the amazing person that she is, she offered to give us a van, not just a van, a driver and a van, to take us around London to the places that we wanted to go. She didn't have to do that. I mean, first of all, Marvel, they had money, but just because they had the money does not mean they had to offer it. We didn't ask for this, but Sally knew that we were not from this country and we probably wanted to see things that were around, around the city. And she offered to have a driver take us around, which was incredible. So thank you again, Sally. That was amazing for you to do that. So during those 10 days off where we kind of just got to hang out and explore, that's when the 6 of us agents kind of really bonded and formed friendships, because that's what we did. We explored together, we went sightseeing, we went to restaurants, and we went to museums. We went on hikes, we went and checked out the Notting Hill Carnival. We had a lot of fish and chips and Guinness. We hit a bunch of the touristy spots in London. Here's a picture I took on the Tower Bridge of London with my phone. I obviously did a lot of photo editing afterwards. I think it turned out super cool in black and white. Some of us took a boat trip on the river together. We wore hats so we wouldn't get sunburnt. Big Ben was unfortunately under construction. Jose and I actually took a trip over to Oxford University, which was a beautiful campus, and then we went to a pub where C.S. Lewis and J.R.R. Tolkien used to hang out and I guess talk about their novels with each other, which was super cool. Now, one thing I did want to do while I was in London was rep my acting school. So here's a picture of me wearing my Hood School of Acting shirt, and here's a picture of me wearing my Drama Inc. sweatshirt. And since Pralgo's acting class doesn't have any apparel, I just decided to bring Rob along. Okay, so after 10 days of basically being tourists in London and Windsor, we were definitely ready to go back on set again. And now we were ready to shoot our third scene here in London. And this was honestly one of the craziest days I've ever seen on set. There were over 50 performers there that day, including the principal cast and all the stunt performers. I never seen a call sheet so long with that many people listed on it. In addition to that, I met Scarlett that day because Black Widow was in that scene, and Taskmaster was in that scene with the mask off because this was the end of the movie. So I had already known the identity of Taskmaster after that day. So it was really interesting over the next 2 years to see people trying to predict who Taskmaster was. And in my mind, I'm thinking, oh, I already know. Now you may be wondering, wait, hold on, Kurt. I don't remember seeing you in a scene with Black Widow and Taskmaster. Well, guess what? That scene got cut too. Yeah. Those were the 3 scenes that we filmed for Black Widow in the UK. Now you may be asking, wait, hold on, what about the scene that we saw you in the beginning of the movie? Well, that scene wasn't shot in the UK. That scene was shot back in Atlanta, actually back in Macon, Georgia, about an hour outside of Atlanta. So it's really ironic that the scenes that we spent 3 weeks in the UK filming, none of those made the final cut of the movie. You did see a clip of one of those scenes in the first trailer, but none of them made the final cut of the movie. And the one scene that you did see us in the beginning of the movie, that was shot in one day down in Georgia. So I thought it was ironic that that's what happened. It was about a month after we got back from the UK was when we shot that scene down here in Georgia. And this was the scene that you saw me in the beginning, the 2 parts that you saw me in when I first walk up and talk to Secretary Ross, and then later on as I bring him the little tracking beacon that we find in the bathroom. Those were all shot on the same day down in Macon, Georgia. And even in that scene, a few parts of it were cut out. I had a couple more lines with Secretary Ross after I first talked to him. And then there was a really cool shot, I thought it was a cool shot, of when I received the tracking beacon that the SWAT team member hands to me, and I walk all the way down the hallway to hand it to Secretary Ross, and there was a tracking shot with camera behind me walking all the way up to him. I thought it was super cool. That got cut from the movie as well, so that's why you only see those 2 little clips of me saying the 2 lines. Those were the only parts that made it into the movie, even though I ended up working on the movie for much longer than that. Now, is it a huge bummer that 3 out of the 4 scenes that we were supposed to be in for this movie got cut out? Yeah, it's a total bummer. But I'm super grateful that 1 scene still made it in, and I'm really hoping that the DVD or the Blu-ray has deleted scenes and at least 1 or hopefully all of those scenes that we were in make it to that DVD. That would be really cool to see those scenes that we worked so hard on but didn't make it into the final cut of the movie that made it into the theaters. Now, a few weeks after we wrapped, each of us got an unexpected package in the mail. And when we opened it up, it was a Black Widow sweatshirt. You can see the little Black Widow logo. A Black Widow sweatshirt and a Black Widow hat. This was super cool. I mean, some productions do send some swag after you finish filming. I remember after working on Greenland, I got a cool duffel bag. Some productions have it, some productions don't. It depends on if they have the budget for it. Marvel obviously has the budget for like everything. So we got this cool swag. This sweatshirt's really cool. Now, I would have worn this sweatshirt while taping this video, but it's currently July in Georgia and it's incredibly hot. I would have been sweating profusely had I been wearing this sweatshirt, so that's why I'm not wearing this right now. But as you can see, there's the Black Widow logo right there, and along the left sleeve it says Marvel Studios Black Widow, and in tiny font that you probably can't read on camera, it says Cast and Crew 2019. And then the back of the sweatshirt has a picture of Natasha Romanoff. And I can't read Russian, so I don't know what that says. I'm assuming it says Black Widow, but if any of you read Russian, you want to leave a comment, tell me what that says. Let me know if I'm right or wrong. Does that say Black Widow? All right, so that is the sweatshirt. Actually, how about I put it on right now? Hey, check it out. All right, I'm already super hot. I gotta finish this video as soon as possible. All right, here is the hat. It is all black with the cool Black Widow logo right here, the hourglass, and the silhouette of Natasha Romanoff herself standing in the middle of the hourglass. And then on the back, it says Marvel Studios Black Widow Crew 2019. So, boom, Black Widow sweatshirt and hat that was given to us. I love this. I've worn it quite a bit. Now, one thing that I do think is funny is that Marvel wanted us to keep Black Widow a secret. Not the movie itself. Obviously, people knew that they were making this movie, but they wanted to make sure that we didn't tell anybody that we worked on this movie. We had to keep it a secret that we worked on this movie until it came out, right? But then a few weeks after it wraps, they send us this. I mean, how are we supposed to wear something that says Black Widow cast and crew around town and not have people ask, hey, were you on the movie? Did you work on the movie? And you say, no, I stole this from someone. Okay, so overall, my experience working on Black Widow was incredible. I would not change a single second of it. It starts with the people. I mean, the people that I worked with is the best part. Kate Shortland, the director, our fearless leader, she was amazing. I mean, on any movie set, I feel like it's the director and the lead actor set the tone for everybody. And Kate and Scarlett really did that. Kate was so welcoming for all of us and had really had the atmosphere of a collaborative set, and everybody felt like they were involved in doing a great thing, and it was such a positive set to work on. And Scarlett did that as well, even though we were only on set one day with Scarlett Johansson, but in that one day, I distinctly remember her like cracking jokes and keeping everything kind of light and fun and lively, even though we were filming a very serious scene, right? So that was really cool to see the director and the lead actress really bringing that positivity to the set. So that was a great experience. Also, obviously, the 6 agents, my other Ross agents, I could not have asked for. I said this in the beginning, I could not have asked for a better group of people to spend these 3 weeks in London and then one day down in Macon, Georgia. They were memories to last a lifetime, and we are forever bonded by this experience. So thank you, Jacinta, Jose, Josh, Jeffrey, and Rob. You guys made this experience so much better. And I want to thank you to those of you who commented on my channel or sent me an email with all those messages telling me that you saw me in the movie and you were super excited. It was really exciting for me to see those messages. So thank you again for that. All right, that is it for this video. That is my experience working on Black Widow. It was an incredible experience. And if you have any questions, leave them down in the comments below. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you haven't already, subscribe to this channel. And until next time, keep practicing, keep learning, and I hope to see you on set one day.